Welcome to Contact Has Begun, brought to you by the grace of the World Puja Network, one of the last vestiges of truth concerning benevolent, spiritually, and technologically advanced off-world visitors. Some refer to these visitors as our greater family of man or returning ancient ancestors. I am James Gilliland, your host, and our guests also include cutting-edge physicists, authors, teachers, and healers dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth. Let the journey begin.
Greetings, I'm your host, James Gilliland. We've got another great show. We've got Mel Fabregas with Veritas Radio on the show, and Mel's going to be joining us here at the ECETI Ranch for the June 29th through May 2nd event. And if you send us an email if you want to find out more about that, send it to ecetireservations@gmail.com or eceticustomerservice@gmail.com. And Mel's been with us for quite a while now. He's had some amazing experiences up at the ranch, and hopefully we can bring him on and talk a little about what he's been up to and some of his experiences at the ranch. Mel, are you with us?
I'm with you, James. Hello. Always a pleasure being with you.
Yeah. I wanted to let people know this is our second attempt because it's just hilarious. We were just talking about how the powers that were like to mess with our recording instruments, and our first attempt at recording, Mel disappeared off the air, and I could hear him through my headphones, but there was nothing being recorded. Quite interesting. And the equipment worked flawlessly and up to then, and it's all brand new equipment. So kudos to them. They're pretty tricky. Keep it up, guys. Your karma is increasing.
They'll learn something today.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it's great having you on the show. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how both of us have been experiencing some pretty crazy interference in trying to interview some of the guests that we have on our shows, and it seems like right when we get to a major event or some major breakthrough that they want to let out, bam, the equipment just goes haywire.
It happens. It happens to me quite frequently, and sometimes we use telephones, sometimes we use Skype, sometimes we use something else, and it doesn't matter. They are able to, for example, I remember years ago I interviewed Paul Laviolette one of many times, and as we were talking about how to create an anti-gravity machine at home, all that audio, I don't know how, it was surgically removed. Just that question. The rest was allowed. Well, we were disconnected 25 times, but this was not a disconnect. This was actually a surgically removed piece of the audio. So yeah. just before we were saying this, when we tried to connect for the first time today, I was saying how wonderful that we can actually talk almost as if we're in the studio and your new equipment. It's wonderful. I can hear you perfectly. We can press a button and talk to somebody across the world. So technology, you have to love it and sometimes you have to hate it. Yeah, it has a way of enlightening people and suppressing people at the same time, and I guess it's all up to the user and the consciousness of the people behind the technology. That's right. And recently I saw a video talking about this, and I've been mentioning this, James, a lot during my show in the past few months, how I'm a bit concerned with this marriage of technology. If you look back at the ancient times, we think of the indigenous people. We call them soulless savages, but they seem to be the ones who created the best technology as it relates to archaeology, architecture, and they seem to be in touch with nature. In our case, we seem to be removing ourselves more and more from nature and even from people. This marriage of technology, I wonder if there's a second phase that will be taking place soon, where, you probably have heard the term singularity, where we're going to be marrying this technology and we're going to be upgraded, the whole chip implant, and but I just don't want to go the doom route. Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about that, and unfortunately some of the very top speakers have actually promoted this transhumanism and see it as a good thing. And I've also seen they actually talk about eugenics as a good thing as well. So I'm kind of wondering just who these people are and who's sponsoring them when I hear them, talking about these things. And it's just quite interesting, the whole
the whole paradigm going on right now. And I think people are wising up to who's who, despite the facades that they're putting out.
Yes, I think there's an unveiling taking place. You hear people talk about certain topics. All of a sudden, they talk about transhumanism, which is the new term for, what is it? What's the word I want to use? James, help me out.
Or like a technical evolution or something? Or
Yeah, pretty much. Just what Nazi Germany used to do, and right now is just using technology. So in the future, if you have a company and you want to hire 20 people, you're going to hire 20 people who have the upgrade. And the rest, what? Slaves. So people are advocating for this.
Yeah, it's like the Borg, The Borg are here, and they're just now starting to do their deeds, and the Borg are us.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I have really high hopes for the future. I know from my own inner guidance and information I've been getting in that, we are going to go through a real, some rough times and a real rocky road here in the future, but it's on the path to something much grander. And I do see the energies that are not aligned with unity consciousness, and that, the tyranny consciousness and the me consciousness and the greed and separation game, I do see all of those just imploding, and I think we're in the middle of that implosion process.
I think so too. And like you, I'm an optimist by nature. At the same time, we cannot hide under a rock. There's dire news coming, on a daily basis, and we have to also discuss those, because without knowing what to do, if we completely put ourselves under a rock and forget about the things that are bad, we won't be able to improve them. So it's important to discuss both, but to be optimists, because we have the choice. We have the way in which we can make a better world.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many people out there, and people call them they have different names for them, the woo-woo airy fairies, and, part of me fits into that category because I do have, pretty unlimited, I guess, mind, you might say, that can go out there and explain, and experience those other planes and dimensions. But the message I get from these higher planes and dimensions is that, we have to get off our butts and do our part, on this level. And I think it's sad that there are a lot of people out there that are giving people the feel-good message that don't worry, everything's going to be done for you. All you have to do is focus on love and peace, and the whole world's just going to be shifted, and you don't have to do anything.
Now, you see, this is the part where I completely differ. I understand that you have to love, and you have to embrace the positive energies, but at the same time, I don't think anybody's going to do anything for you. We have to get off our butts and do it ourselves. As a matter of fact, somebody sent me a video. I get videos every single day, but this morning somebody sent me a video called "Get Off Your Knees." That was the title, and it basically showed a sheep getting off the herd and fighting the sheepdog, basically saying, we're not going to take it anymore. And it really sent a clear message to me, saying, there's only one sheepdog. Everybody else is a sheep. If everybody started realizing that we are being manipulated by the sheep herder and the sheepdog, and we confront them, they can't win. It's such a simple way of thinking.
Yeah, it is. I know one of the things that I've seen over and over again is that the powers that were, the elite, actually are controlling both sides, and it's amazing how they control the right and they control the left, and now the left is the right on steroids. So our illustrious president, basically, and he's Bush's dream child, basically. But you look at you hear him say one thing, and they're very charismatic, and they tell you everything you want to hear, everything you need to hear. Politicians and some new age people too will tell you everything you want to hear, and give you the feel-good message, but it's a half message, and it usually has an agenda behind it, other than really serving the people and telling you what you need to hear.
Exactly. I think polarity is the word here. I used to say duality, but it's polarity, because if you look at the message, whether it's left or right, it's always the same. It's always attacking the other side. This is what keeps people separated, and the whole divide and conquer.
Yeah.
If you and I sat down with most American people, and I bet you it doesn't even happen in the United States, this left and right paradigm happens in Europe, happens in many other countries. If we sat down with a regular person and talk about what matters to them, you'll find that you have so much more in common. And you'll discover that this separation is done on purpose, because the more you separate a community, the more they can be manipulated. I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I was looking at this. One of the issues is chemtrails, and I was looking at the issue of chemtrails, and I've been working very hard on the chemtrails since the early 90s, actually, when they first started appearing on the horizon, and doing research into it, and actually going on the local TV station here and kind of giving people a heads up, upon which I got a low-level spraying of some stuff that was so toxic it almost killed the chickens. It actually paralyzed the chickens for a while and killed a couple of them. But, that was the old days. They're a little more clandestine now about it. They're doing them at 10,000 feet on up. But I think it's interesting that if you take this issue, let's say chemtrails, up with the politicians, basically they won't even touch it. It doesn't exist for them. They won't look at the evidence. They won't have anything to do with it. You take it to the military, and they're on orders from higher ups, and it's top secret. They're not going to talk about it. You go to the EPA, and they're saying, "Oh no, it's not happening. Those are just contrails." And again, they won't look at the evidence because they've been bought and sold. So you say, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to take this to Greenpeace, and I'm going to take it to the Sierra Club." And then you look at the backers for these guys, and it's like Merck, and PBS Radio Merck is the biggest backers, one of the biggest drug companies. See Shell Oil backing the Sierra Club, or you just see all these people are backed by these huge mega corporations, and then you ask them about the chemtrails, and they won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And
go ahead.
Yeah, and you look at this thing and you go, I think eventually people are going to have to wake up to the fact that they control the left, the right, and the biggest agencies, both the environmental impact agencies and the environmental clubs. They control all of it right now.
Chemtrails, I have to tell you, that when I started Veritas, I had a top 10 list of topics that I was most concerned about. And chemtrails was there, but it keeps rising and rising. And I have to tell you, in the past couple of months, almost all the time, I've asked my guests, what's your take on chemtrails? And I have to tell you, only one, and that was David Icke, who started talking about how curious it is that these planes just fly one day, the next day they don't fly. So he was totally aboard with us. But most of the other researchers that we respect, all were saying that this is just bunk, that this is just a crazy conspiracy theory, and that there's no foundation about it. And honestly, my mouth almost dropped. Somebody who's research, I'm not going to name names. Anybody can listen to my shows and realize who I'm talking about. But people that I admire their work and their research, that they do not look into this and see that these are definitely not condensation trails, and that there are independent laboratories that have analyzed the water and the soil, and they have shown barium, strontium, aluminum. And if we, as you mentioned, the drug companies, I mean, what is aluminum? It creates people develop Alzheimer's. What is strontium? It gives you cancer. What is barium? It takes the potassium away from you, so you get heart conditions. So, and now PBS being backed by all these companies, people talk about a new world order coming. I think the new world order has been here for a long time, and it's called a corporation. It's not fascism. It's a corporatocracy, what's taking place, and people don't see it. I mean, look at the BP oil spill. Who were the first ones to respond? It was not our government. It was BP themselves. And it's almost as if our government was taking orders from the corporation.
Yeah, it seems like the government, the military, everybody, were all taking orders from BP, and basically they just pretty much invaded our shores and took over, the whole shoreline and towns and everything else, and all the local authorities just had to step back and put up with it.
Yes, and just like BP, of course, we have to do whatever we have to do to protect the Queen's interest. But you mentioned the drug companies. I remember when I moved to Arizona, I had to go and audit MDA, Muscular Dystrophy Association. And all my life as a kid, Catholic school, I was ordered, not told, ordered to go during the weekend, the Jerry Lewis telethon, to go and collect money from them in the middle of the summer. And I always found it, every single year, there's so many millions of dollars, but what's happening here? And then when I moved to Arizona and I was told to go to that building, it is the most expensive building in the county. And most managers earn over $150,000. This is back in 1996 or 97. And when I asked them to provide their financial statements, they refused. And I said, excuse me, you cannot refuse. This is a nonprofit organization. And all these cancer, AIDS, all these... I don't want to sound as if I don't want to cooperate with a cure. I understand that. But I take it, my discovery is that a lot of this is just a hamster running on the wheel, going on forever and never finding a cure, because cures are not profitable, just like free energy is not profitable.
Well, I know if you had a cure for diabetes, they would have your head in moments. And there are cures out there. There's a lot of people that have been curing diabetes. Cancer as well. I've worked with physicists that have cured every form of cancer on the planet, and they just did it through formulas and through superoxygenating the blood and raising the pH, which backs cancer right out of the system. And this is stuff that was given by Otto Warburg. I think he was a triple PhD. He was a triple Nobel Prize winner. And he gave us, I think in 1929, the cure for cancer. He said cancer's anaerobic. You raise the blood oxygen, raise the pH. It has to have an acidic environment to function, and oxygen just eats cancer. So, the cure is there, but it does seem like there's a mass effort through all the chemicals in the food, the fluoride in the water, the bonding of all the other chemicals in the water, and everything else to create cancer, and there's actually no movement at all to really cure it, other than these new products that are going to come out 5 years in the future. They always say that, oh yeah, we've got it, we've almost got it, we just need more money, and after 5 years of testing, we'll get the okay from the FDA.
Of course. I mean, just you have to look at all these companies that the so-called finding a cure. They're publicly traded companies. If you tell the shareholders, we have found the cure for something, you know what would happen to the stock. So they can't let that happen. So to me, this is all planned obsolescence. You remember how in the 30s and 40s, people would have their refrigerators, appliances, even cars that would... I know people who have refrigerators from the 40s that are still in better shape than the ones you buy today. Such planned obsolescence. Yes, granted, we are living longer than before, some say, but they don't allow you to go out there for alternative cures. Only the very powerful or the informed, like you and some of the people who listen to us, can go out there and get these I don't want to say they were cures because I don't want the FDA behind my back, but these alternative sources. You hear Pamela Anderson, who developed the hepatitis a few years ago, and that's incurable. Well, all of a sudden, she got cured. And when you ask her, Pamela, what happened here? How did you get cured? Oh, God did it. So apparently, she is told what to say because she cannot say, oh, I went to so-and-so to get cured, because you'll know what happened to that person. I spoke to somebody years ago in one of my businesses. All of a sudden, we were talking about alternative cures. She was in the United States, in continental United States, and she was able to cure her daughter of muscular dystrophy. Well, she started spreading the message, and the FDA came after her. She had to leave the country. She now lives in Alaska. And she basically gave me a lot of information, and I wish I could get a hold of her, because this is what I want now. For the past few years, I was drinking reverse osmosis water, thinking that this was the best thing in the world. Didn't realize that it causes the pH of your body to go to be acidic.
Yeah.
So I bought some meters recently, a pH meter and another one that measures the electricity in my body, and now I bought myself an alkalizer, a water alkalinity alkalizer, and it also provides oxygen to the water. And I can't believe it. In less than 2 weeks, my pH level went through the roof.
Yeah. Yeah, it is amazing. People don't realize that, water basically has incredible properties. You can entrain it with energy and consciousness, and water is the basis of life on this planet. pure water, if you can get water that, not surface water, water that's gone underground and picked up all the minerals and been filtered and that comes back up, really good spring water is what you want to get, because it has all the elements and the minerals and even some live bacteria that you do need, your body does need. And people don't realize when you drink distilled water or reverse osmosis water, it's actually dead water, and your body doesn't like it. And I've done a lot of research into this because I worked for 7 years with a biophysicist, and he actually took water and created it into a microhydrant and infused it with crystallized oxygen, so he can raise the oxygen levels up to 1,000% in water. And it's not, people go, well, you can't do that because water is H2O. Well, that's true. If you just put oxygen into water, you open the lid and you hear psst, and it's gone. It's gone. But if you crystallize it and suspend it in the water, and you reform the water into a microhydrant, then you've got something that that has all the minerals that you need in it as well. Then you have live water that's going to oxygenate the blood and raise the pH and actually go after any viruses or bacteria or even cancer, because cancer is anaerobic and oxygen's the highest systemic antibiotic you can get.
That's right. And recently I remember a story you told me when I bought this machine about a month or two ago. The first night I couldn't sleep. The first couple of nights I couldn't sleep, and I wonder why. I was so energized. And that just showed how when you just infuse your body with oxygen in the water, it has such a powerful effect, losing weight, gaining energy, and just by the water that you drink. And I used to have water in plastic before. And then I interviewed Dr. Betty Martini. What's her name? Well, I forgot. One of my guests who told me that you have to have your water in glass. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, to put your water into glass. And it's incredible how small changes in your life can make such a big difference. You told me that you were drinking that water, and one time you had to drive overnight to a conference, and you didn't even sleep because you had the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that, and I actually had the crystallized oxygen pills. I drove from Washington State to Laughlin, Nevada for the International UFO Congress, and I drove all the way through there, and it took about 17, 18 hours to get there, and then I stayed up all night and hung out with a lot of the speakers. We're at the restaurant there, and the little combination bar restaurant, and I walked by and they go, "Hey, James," and so I said, "Oh yeah, what's up?" They go, "I just got in." They go, they asked me how long you've been driving. I said 17 hours. And they go, "Well, you need to go to bed." And I go, "No, I feel great." So I went and hung out with them for a while.
Now, as you see, when you talk to people, the mainstream, about this and the fact that cancer is anaerobic and many other diseases are, and you tell them that you can actually cure it and you can actually find ways to address it without having to go through chemo or radiation, they just say to you, "Wait a minute, I've never seen this on TV. If it's not on TV, it must not be true, James."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is sad, because they want the rubber stamp on there, but they don't realize that in order to get that rubber stamp, if you do come up with a cure, you'll never get the rubber stamp, because the ones that own the rubber stamp don't want the cure to come out, and it's just a no-brainer that I just see all over the world. I see people having here we have people that have spontaneous healings, and it's very well documented. One doctor came here from Japan and went through one of the transpersonal release sessions, and he had big thick glasses on, and he went to walk out of the room and he couldn't see. He goes, "I can't see, I'm blind." And the woman with him, she goes, "Take your glasses off," and she pulls her glasses off, and he goes, "I see perfectly." And he couldn't see through his glasses was the problem, that he went through this transformation. I'm not saying this happens all the time, because it doesn't. It's up to the individual as to what they're open to, and it's between them and the universe what happens. But we've seen broken limbs mend overnight. We've seen tumors disappear. Ulcers just stop. There's just all kinds of crazy things happen here, on a regular basis. But really, it's just that there is a field of dreams here, and when people get out there and they ask and they're sincere, sometimes magic happens.
I think the biggest conspiracy of all is the secret that prevents us from knowing our true potential. I think that our mind has much more power. And when we think of our minds, we think of our brains mostly, but I think the mind is throughout the body. Even, cell memory. I have a friend who passed away a couple of years ago, but he had a heart transplant. He was in his 60s. And the heart transplant came from a young man who died in a car accident. He was 22. And all of a sudden, he started developing taste for food that he never liked before, spicy food. All of a sudden, he would listen to rap, which he hated. He loved classical music and country. And then he would start tapping on the floor. And he called the deceased man's family and asked, did your son like this and that? And they say, absolutely, he loved it. So I think cell memory is everywhere. We can actually, with our minds, in my opinion, we can affect change, not only exterior, but to our bodies. I remember years ago, I listened to what's called the Silva method back many, many years ago when I thought this was all New Age BS. But now I wish that my mind was in the right place back then, because all those teachings of, thinking if you have a pain in your teeth, to think, to be able to fix the problem. If you have a tumor, imagine the tumor shrinking every day. And a lot of people who have experienced this become cancer-free, become tumor-free just by doing that. It's just that most people do not believe that they have the ability of doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look at all the modern-day physics, where they're talking about is without the observer, mass doesn't exist. And nothing exists without the observer. That's what they keep running into this program. Well, if you think about it, if we're blinking in and out something like 14 times a second, between a wave and a particle, and other people have different numbers for that, but the bottom line is you're recreating yourself 14 times a second. And if you could slow that process down and hold the thought of a different creation of a whole and healthy perfect self, I think miracles could happen, but it's just learning the practices to do that.
I wonder, James, what you just said, it just takes the word concentration away from me. Because the way you see it now, you turn on the TV and what do you see? If you turn on the news, it's so bombastic, it's so quick. You have all the little words coming from right to left, and it catches your attention so quickly that people, especially the young ones, nothing satisfies them unless they get immediate gratification. And they cannot specialize in something because they're putting so much information out there that people cannot focus. And I think this is part of the plan, to keep everybody not learning our true potential.
I think it is too, and I think TV is the master enslaver. I know in about some, mid-early 70s, I pretty much threw my TV set out the window. And people ask me, they go, how, you need to stay informed. What if you don't know when the next terrorist attack is going to happen, or this or that? And it's really weird. And I said, now with the internet, you can pick and choose what you want to look at and what you want to read. And with the TV, it's all programmed. They're choosing what they want you to know about and what they want you to believe and see. And with the internet being international, you can get both sides of the story now and find out, the truth about what's really going on. And I think that's a godsend in a way. Just the instant communication and the global network that we have, where we can actually, get to the truth of these matters and find out, what's really going on versus what we're told is going on.
Granted that with the advent of the internet, there's also going to be COINTELPRO. There's going to be people out there trying to say that, I hear from some of my guests, they talk about their new findings, they put it on a forum, all of a sudden, or even on YouTube, and all of a sudden somebody creates a new account on YouTube just to debunk what they're saying. So we have to be very careful. But yes, it makes you wonder also why the government was so gung-ho in giving people their digital boxes, even if they couldn't afford it. I wonder what the digital signal really does, because as you may know, the television in Germany, one of the things is that the waves that are emitted from the TV is the equivalent of the waves that are transmitted in a mother's womb when she's pregnant to pacify the baby. So in less than 60 seconds, it's almost, I call it the subliminal tube for a reason, because the moment you turn on that TV, it only takes 1 minute for you to be in that zone, exactly what they want you to be programmed.
Yeah, that's why they call it the boob tube. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, to get the suckling, nurturing energy of the mother, programmed into you, so you'll believe anything that comes down that pipeline. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I've noticed too that with all these cable systems and everything else, those TVs go both ways, and so they can actually listen in and in some cases even view you anytime they want. And see what you're talking about or what you're doing. A lot of the computers, they can do that now. That's been released. I guess there's been a lot of insiders talking about how people with their their different types of phones with cameras on them and listening devices or whatever, that they can activate those at any time and listen or observe what's going on in your bedroom, basically.
That's right, and that's an area of concern with technology. So many people who leave their Wi-Fi's open to anybody. I have one of my brothers who was asked in the neighborhood if he wanted to be part of a neighborhood FBI training center. I mean, during the whole terrorism, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, he accepted, and they taught him, like, look, this is some of the things that can be done. If you have a neighbor who has Wi-Fi, you can actually upload pictures, any kind of pictures that can put that neighbor in trouble. You can actually accuse the neighbor of having those pictures. He never did it, but somebody can do it. So there are ways to damage, people like you and I with stuff that we've never done. So anybody who's listening out there, if you have a Wi-Fi, please make sure that you have a very protected password, and nobody around you can use your access to have access to your computers.
Yeah, they definitely have all kinds of toys. From my understanding is talking to some of the people, I know you've had some pretty eloquent guests that insiders that know what's going on, is that they can actually do it from a satellite, or they can fly a helicopter over your place and have full access to your computer, and or park a van with a dish on it, and which we've seen around here actually. And I tell you a funny story. I had David Farnsworth here. He's the grandson, I think, of Philo T. Farnsworth, which actually created the television set. And he had his gear up here and all of his equipment and oscilloscopes and antennas and everything. And he was monitoring the full bandwidth of all the energies and what's happening here. And he says, wow, you've got something coming down overhead, and it's not a good energy. He was measuring the frequencies. And he said, you also have something coming in from that hill over there. And we got some binoculars, and we're looking up on the hill, and we see this gray van up there with a dish on it, out in the middle of nowhere in the forest, up on this hill. And so as soon as we said that, I said, we should go up there and see what these guys are doing and check it out. And as soon as we said that, within like 2 minutes, that van was packed up and gone. And not even 2 minutes. We were sitting there watching it, and we go, wow, they're packing up and leaving. So they were listening, to everything going on here. And he also said, you've got every frequency going on here. You have every agency, in the area, in this small little town, broadcasting. He goes, what's up with that? Like this. So it's kind of interesting, but we've actually had most of the agencies come to the ranch and actually see what's going on here and realize it's benevolent and that it's good and there's nothing to fear. And actually there's times when they actually try to find out who these guys are, because they can't make contact with these higher dimensional beings.
And I have to say, people accuse the triple-letter agencies of being bad. There's good and bad everywhere, folks. I've met people from the CIA. I've met people from the FBI. And they have some good people there. However, who do they work for? When you have the regulators work for the companies, you have people that work for the government or work for for Merck, for example, and all of a sudden become the director of the FDA. Something's wrong there. But, at your ranch, you have so many people listening, probably because it's a threat in a way, because you have people who talk about alternative cures. You have people who talk about free energy. You have people who talk about extraterrestrial life. This is very contradictory to what the powers that want to keep the secret. And when I was there this last time, you may remember this, at 1:30 in the morning, you may remember this, James, my whole room shook, and I said to myself, what is going on here? So I get out of the room, and there was a Chinook helicopter at 1:30 in the morning parked over us for about 10 minutes. I didn't even bring my camera out. I didn't bring my recorder out because I was just dumbfounded. What is this thing doing over us in a private property in the middle of the night? Why are they doing this? And thank God for John Kelly. He was there. He always documents everything. My first UFO, he documented because I couldn't. The Chinook, he documented because I couldn't. Why are these helicopters visiting your place and some of the others?
Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah, if nothing's happening here, why are they all looking into it? I think it's kind of hilarious when you think about it. We've got just phenomenal footage of these black helicopters and some that look like Black Hawks with gear on them that nobody can explain. I have people in the Air Force. I have Air Force base commanders that have come up here, and I showed them this picture, and they go, yeah, we know who those are. I can't really talk about it. He said, the only thing I can tell you is that, we have to stay a certain, distance away from them when they come in, and they get out, they fuel themselves, and they take off, and it's, we don't need to know anything. He goes, we don't know who they are or anything. All we know is that when they have carte blanche, and we're not supposed to go anywhere near these helicopters.
Honestly, this kind of sounds like science fiction to some people.
Yeah.
But what I think is happening here, when I saw the helicopter there, I thought, first of all, if they're here to scare us, I don't think anybody's scared. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, unless you have a missile pointing at my face, I'm not scared. Uh-huh. At the same time, I wonder if they think, because of your place and what we talk about and the people who go there, I've seen people who are, I don't want to say strange, but very different, that go to conferences. Uh-huh. And sometimes I wonder if they're not from this neighborhood, if you know what I mean. Yeah. If they have a way to detect from those helicopters, if there's one of them, if everybody, you and I, we emit a signature, a heat signature. Oh, and it makes you wonder if somebody who may be from outside of this neighborhood may be at your ranch and they're looking just to identify them.
Uh-huh. I think that's definitely true. And also, I think when you get a group together, and you're doing some powerful work, some healing or transformational work, or sending healing to Japan or somewhere else that's going through crisis, that puts out a signature, and they pick it up. And it's funny, whenever we have events here or just do private clearing work, that nobody knows about, all of a sudden these guys show up, and they're cruising the area trying to find out, what's going on and find out where that energy signature came from. So they're definitely monitoring energy signatures and shifts and changes in the fields here, and I think they're trying to figure it out as much as everybody else and as what's going on, and basically we would tell them what's going on. We don't have anything to hide here. I figured they need education as well.
That's right, and that's probably why you get the visit from some of us. If you had, people from Boeing, you have people from showing free energy devices there. Mm-hmm. I think that is what makes them worried. Because imagine, if something like this were to happen, I can see how so many thousands of people would fear that their industries will be completely fractured. And this is the part that I sometimes wonder. I have to put my hat on and say, okay, it's great to have free energy. It's great to have free cures. But what would happen to all those people who are employed? Sometimes the planet, like a dog with fleas, has to shake it. And it may not be pleasant. But like today, I was reading the news. I was reading of what's happening in Greece. Greece is going to implode. At the same time, you have a country like Estonia, which has the euro, which is completely profitable, has, it does not have any debt, everybody's happy, and you wonder why some can and why some cannot.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting. I've also seen, too, is that, I just see money as, basically they're just little green pieces of paper or whatever color they put on them, and it's the belief, and the people, what they put into it and their values and things like that. And I think when people get really greedy and fall for the debt trap that's laid out for them, when the jaws close, they get definitely chewed up and spit out. And that is the plan, to totally collapse, an economic system so you can come in and buy everything out for a penny on the dollar. then start over again. So it's build up the sheep, get them nice and fat, get the wool, and then fleece them, and then go from there and start over. That's the game, and as long as people keep participating in that game, it'll continue.
Absolutely. And a few days ago, I had a very, very good conversation with Neil Kramer, who's going to be back at ESETI now again this year. So I'm glad that you're having him back. We had a conversation, and we have very similar, and not upbringings, but we both were part of the corporate world. And, some people criticize me that I was part of it. But in order for you to deconstruct that whole system, you have to be inside of the belly of the beast, if you will. We both were. We can now see how it operated. I was part of it. Years ago, like everybody else, I was buying real estate when the real estate was booming. And now I regret it like many other people. I suffered like everybody else. Some people they give conferences talking about, this and that, and they never worked. They have an endowed, they inherited millions of dollars, and they all of a sudden feel that they have the right to tell us how to live our lives. It's like a priest that gives marriage counseling when they've never been married or had sex. Well, that's debatable, right? But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean on that last comment. But, yeah. Apparently they've had a lot of sex. Only problem is it might have been with little boys, but that's all coming out in the news. It is interesting. I myself, I was in commercial real estate. I had my own office and people working for me, and I was on a board of director in the Chamber of Commerce. I saw how all the inner workings and how corrupt that whole program was, and then I had the drowning. I had the near-death experience, and that shifted me back to what I knew as a child, and made me ultra-sensitive again, and brought back, the basic, the sacred senses that we've had, beat out of us. And I agree with you. It's like you will never understand the beast until you walk through its world. You got to walk through its world to understand it. See what it has to offer, see how enslaving all that is, and how you get so programmed, with material acquisition and outer appearances, and to break it, and then you have to bust that, and then bust your ego and get back to what's real.
One of the concerns that I have, since you talk about being more sensitive and also sensitive about what we drink and what we eat, one of the biggest concerns I have lately is that they have so much poison in food now. It is just, honestly, it is depressing. For example, I started working out again a few weeks ago, and I was looking for products, whey protein and so on. I cannot find one single pack of protein that does not have sucralose or aspartame. All the chewing gum in the world now has aspartame. And now, of course, they're getting away with murder by calling natural flavors and not telling you what is actually there. But, I've always had this thing. When I eat something that has MSG or aspartame or one of these preservatives, I get headaches. Yeah. And people used to criticize me. Oh, look at you. You're so weak. You're always getting headaches. Maybe my body is smarter than the rest that is telling me not to continue using it. And those who continue consuming that, maybe those are the ones, God forbid, but maybe those are the ones who are going to be waking up in the morning one day that something has developed in their bodies that they shouldn't have had.
I agree with you. I was looking at all the, the fluoride in the water, all the estrogen mimickers that are just in everything now, even in all the plastic bottles and the Cokes and the other things that we're drinking. You look at, the fluoride in the water. I mean, we can go on and just all the chemicals that are put in packaged, processed food. And you look at this and you go, wow. There's an effort here to create nice little neutered zombie robot consumers, and that's what they want to turn us all into, to where our brains aren't really operating right, our immune systems are extremely compromised, our sexual organs are just turned transgendering. I mean they're even the male sperm count is down to 25% of what it was back in the 50s, and some people it's their libido's gone completely, due to all these estrogen mimickers and all these other things. So there does seem to be a major effort, even with the NutraSweet and or the aspartame and everything else. There is a major effort to to actually turn people into neutered zombie robot consumers. It's very clear, and to shorten the lifespan too as well, and a major eugenics program behind all that.
Indeed. If a company wants to put aspartame in a product and they're telling you, I'm fine with that. All right? As long as the consenting adult knows that is bad and you have the choice of saying yes or no. But when I go to the grocery store and I see fluoridated baby water, and I think, why in the world they're putting fluoride in baby water? They have no teeth, first of all, and that's where I have a problem. When you give the babies and the children all this stuff. I see people in my circle that give their kids Splenda, thinking, Splenda
gosh.
or NutraSweet, because, we don't want our kids to be jumping off the walls with sugar. Let's give them this. And my wife has already told me, you know what, I understand you're trying to save lives here, but we don't want to be looked upon as these people who are trying to religiously, shove through their throats what we believe. So I'm so glad that I have this platform, Veritas, that allows me to transmit this information out there, because I've had so many people emailing me saying, you know what, ever since I listened to you, I have stopped drinking and my life has completely changed. If we can do this with one person, James, we've done our job.
Oh, I agree. I think you've probably done some research into these GMO foods too.
Sure.
I'm blown away at they give this corn to these rats and their balls turn blue and fall off and they die, and they die soon after, and the cattle are becoming infertile after eating these crops and having and they're dying, and it is such a mess. And you can imagine what that's doing to humans, especially with the soy and the GMO soy having all these severe consequences. But this is all being suppressed, and it seems our government to the highest levels is pushing like crazy these GMO foods, when over in Europe they're banning them right and left and saying, hey, this stuff is deadly, get rid of it.
Today, I just got in the news, there's a $7 billion lawsuit against Monsanto in India. I knew that farmers were committing suicide there, but I didn't know to what extent. Every 30 minutes, folks, listen to this, every 30 minutes, a farmer commits suicide in India because they're losing their crops to Monsanto. It's just incredible.
And they're watching their cattle die and all the other things, and it's pretty crazy. I saw them over there using Coca-Cola, as a pesticide.
Oh, really?
They said because it's cheaper and it works better, and they were just taking Coca-Cola and spraying it on their fields. You think, and then people are drinking this stuff. Okay, what does that tell you? That it'll eat a nail, I think, if you put it in there. But anyway, basically, I think it's all a matter of educating people, people choosing to educate themselves at the same time and having access to that information. And kudos to India and any other countries that are taking Monsatan to task. That's what I call
Monsatan, good.
Because they what they're doing and the amount of lives that they've harmed is just monumental. And this is criminal. They should be treated as such, basically.
When I was telling you that I worked in the belly of the beast, I'll tell you a quick story. Back in 1991, I moved to Florida, and for some reason, I was 23, I was working out, and all of a sudden I was losing my strength, and I felt really weak, and I really was concerned that I was developing MFs. So I went to the doctor, and the first question she asked me is, tell me what you drink and what you eat. And I said, well, I love Chinese food, so I'll eat Chinese food out every day. And she started laughing, and I'm thinking, why is she laughing? I drink a gallon of Diet Pepsi every single day.
God.
And she said to me, if you continue like this, you'll be dead in just a few years, or you won't make it to 50. So I stopped immediately. And from that moment on, it was almost a crusade that I was telling people, don't eat this, don't eat that. But anyway, I moved to California, and I had the territory of the Midwest and the West, and I had to travel to St. Louis a few times to visit. Guess what? Guess who? Monsanto.
Yeah.
I had to work there. And I'm thinking, my God, look at me. I'm working right at the belly of the beast. I cannot tell people here, oh, by the way, I know what Rumsfeld did. He tried to pass aspartame and NutraSweet before, and it was not allowed, but then Reagan came along, and he allowed it immediately. So sometimes you have to be part of the system in order for you to be able to deconstruct it.
I think it is important and right now I think it's very important that people who are part of the system to wake up and start standing up and do what's right, for humanity and the earth, and not participate in anything, any of these war industry programs or these GMO food programs or just any of this stuff that's creating harm, to humanity, the earth. It's time for us all to stand up, just say, hey, we have the right to eat clean, organic food. We have the right to clean water. We have the right to live a thoroughly loving, joyous life, in peace and freedom. And it's time for humanity to stand up for those rights.
And it makes you wonder what's going to happen with all our soldiers that are coming back, if they will be coming back after we finish these endless wars. But a lot of them are coming with so many medical conditions, all the way back to Gulf War I till now. These poor soldiers, they gosh, it's a volunteer force. I get that, and they go there trying to do what they think is best for the country, but they're being experimented upon, vaccines, neurotoxins, and then they come back here. That is the part that concerns me. When they come back to the United States, what's going to happen with them with all these conditions?
Yeah, it's already happening. I mean, the suicide rate, between soldiers is just off the scale right now. And a lot of them have lost their benefits, and they're told that they're crazy when they're exhibiting all of these, all of these symptoms of the side effects of these inoculations and being exposed to all God knows what, in those other places. But, depleted uranium, all that stuff that they've had to deal with. I see people coming back and they're a mess, and the only thing I can tell them to do is, start. You need to just start eating pure food, get out in the sun, get some fresh water, and start meditating and find whatever detox thing you can get. Get all the heavy metals out of your system and get your immune system boosted up, because what you've allowed them to do to you and is basically the next war is going to be to save your own life.
That's right, and veterans are coming back trying to say this is related to the vaccines I got in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever, and they're just saying no, you have no way to prove this, so they're denying the medical benefits, and it's sad to also know that 1 out of every 4 homeless was part of our military. I mean, this is where we're coming to.
My concern is them waking up and actually finally figuring out what was done to them. And then, a lot of these guys are trained snipers. And,
right.
and eventually, as anything, karma always comes home to roost, and, I don't know how it's going to happen, but, there's going to be a heck of a lot of forgiveness and a lot of reconciliation and compensation to turn this around, or there's going to be something really crazy.
Yes, and you're going to have Dean Clifford at East City soon, and I corresponded with him yesterday. He talks about what's legal and what's not legal. Very interesting topics that he deals with. But yes, it makes you wonder if any soldier that comes out, even after they are discharged, if there's going to be a law that prevents them from talking or from spreading the news to the rest of the armed forces, because many of them are coming back. You see them in Occupy Wall Street, you see them at Tea Party meetings, you see them everywhere talking about how they were used. I mean, look at what happened in Iraq. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, but were there any weapons of mass destruction? Was Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan? No, he was in Pakistan. That supposedly is our friend. Standing where? Supposedly. I think that he died many, many years ago, and he was irrelevant in my opinion, but they used him for the right moment when Obama had his ratings plummet. But, right next to the equivalent of our one of our elite military schools right there in Pakistan. So these people are working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. You know, I don't want to end on a light note here. We're running out of time, but you know, I would actually I want to end on a light note. What I'd like to do is talk about some of you know, if you can share with the audience some of your experience while you were here at ECETI. We just have a few minutes, and then we can definitely plug your show, the Veritas Show, and get people listening to a lot of these amazing guests that you have on your show.
Thank you. And by the way, when I talk about all these news, I'm not a doomer, folks. I just tell the truth. I just tell it what it is. But I even mentioned this during the Neil Kramer's show the other day. I said, you know, you go to a social gathering, everybody goes there with their guard up because you don't know who you're going to encounter. Well, the opposite happens at the ECETI Ranch. When I got there for the first time, of course, I didn't know what to expect. Never having seen a UFO, never interacted with the people that go there. But I have to tell you, it was the total opposite. Your guard is down. Everybody there comes for one reason. They want to learn. They want to be more in touch with themselves and, you know, have a very spiritual and a very open experience. And that's exactly what I went through, meeting people from all over the world. We're talking about doctors, attorneys, people from the government, from all walks of life with one common goal. And everybody's there to have fun, to learn. And on my second year, I saw more UFOs than I could count. So it happens. So I call it always, it's the Disneyland for ufologists. So I'm so glad that I'm coming back again, James.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great to have you here. I know we had fun. I know we were playing around. When we had that big solar event, and I know you got really sunburned last time you were here. I know.
I'm taking a big hat this time.
Yeah, Brooks Agnew and I were actually thanking you for absorbing the entire solar flare that hit the planet, because boy, you sure got a sunburn last time you were here. But yeah, we always remind people to bring a hat, and the sun is not what it used to be, and to realize we are getting bombarded with one solar flare after another. It's just getting crazy right now. So. A lot of energy coming in.
That's right. And I'm taking a big hat this time. But yeah, even if it's cold, you think that you're not getting burned. But I saw a video of one of your participants there, film me on video for one of his movies, and I saw myself. I couldn't believe it. I looked like an alien with my glasses. I'm white around my eyes and completely dark around it. So, yes, watch it. But, yes, I had such a great experience, and anybody who's listening that can still make it up there, I highly encourage you to do so. It's such a great experience. During the day, you're interacting with the people and seeing the lectures, and at night, we all convene. It's such a great amenity to be there at night and watching what's happening in the sky.
And we have some toys here. We have the third generation night vision goggles, along with some pretty big infrared spotlights where we can actually light up the orbs and let people see what's happening in the other dimensions. And the orb phenomena here is incredible. I mean, I still have people saying that this is dust, or this is rain, even when it's clear blue skies. But, these are large objects, some are a foot to maybe 8 inches wide, and they're coming in and they're stopping, they're flying against the wind, they're interacting with people. They're exhibiting intelligent behavior far beyond dust. I mean,
let me say that I used to be one of the ones who said that I think that they were dust. But last year, when I saw them following my laser up and down, I knew this is not what I thought.
Yeah. They're very inquisitive, so I think it's pretty hilarious watching this and watching people's reaction to it. I mean, we have staunch scientists coming here and they just say that's just dust, or that's just, and after they get through experiencing and seeing the photographs and the real-time footage of these things flying around, and then look through and see it themselves, they just go, oh my God, and they have to go reformulate their whole belief system after that.
Exactly.
Especially when a huge ship drops down and powers up and makes a nice turn as it flies away. That really kind of throws their program a monkey wrench.
See, and that's the great thing. When you're standing next to a skeptic, and I am a skeptic, folks. I'm an open-minded skeptic. And the first time I went there, I was a skeptic. And I stood there, and people were looking at me thinking, okay, so you think
Looks like we lost Mel, but right at the end of the hour, thank God. Close this show out and thank Mel, and go to Veritas if you want to check out his radio show. He's got some great guests, and he'll be here at the conference June 29th through the 2nd of July. So check that out too. Send us an email and we'll send the information. Pay attention, and remember, the energy coming through is a feeling. It's not something you're going to see with your eyes. Tune into your heart and feel what's going on. We are going through change.